What if you were a working civil engineer and you had to take over as president of the company almost overnight? Well, in this week's Engineering Management Lessons video, I have with me Marc Sandhu, president of ARS Engineers. And that happened to Marc. Unfortunately, he lost his father and he had to assume the presidency of the company. So he talks about that as one of the key transitions for him in his career that has really helped him to grow. And this is also kind of a primer for a full podcast interview that we'll be publishing here on the channel next week with Marc. So Marc, take us through this big transition for you, this big growth point in your career.
Sure thing. Well, my father first went into the hospital in 2019 for a really bad case of pneumonia. At the time, he was the acting president, 100% owner, and had been that for 35 years before that. You know, I was serving as vice president, and that was definitely a pillar of quick change because he was actually in the hospital for nearly 3 months with long-term acute care and all that kind of stuff. And so it forced me to be acting president in an instant, and the company had to make a lot of quick decisions and all that kind of stuff. And it helped me in the future with focusing on preparation, on backup plans, on making sure processes are in order. But that was the time regarding a growth spurt. I had to make a big growth spurt from vice president to acting president basically overnight, and that really kind of changed the course of my career quickly.
So Marc, in doing that, what do you feel in your career kind of leading up to that point helped you to be prepared to make that change? Because obviously when you went from, VP to president, I mean, to some degree at VP, I'm sure you were doing some business related items, but at president, you're doing a lot more, whether it's business development, leadership tasks in that role. What were some things that you had done along the way that helped you to be able to make that transition?
Absolutely. So I think there was good leadership above me to kind of keep me informed of all the things at the presidential level that was happening, even though perhaps I wasn't making every decision, whether it's hiring or firing or capital expenditures or, 100 other things. I wasn't making every decision, but I was being informed. And I think that's important in senior leadership, is that there's a certain level of knowledge of what's going on, even if it stops at the top, so to speak, and the final decisions are there. Just having knowledge transferred down through other senior leadership is very important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The more mentoring and information that you can learn and receive along the way is just going to make it easier when you have to make any leadership transition. And the last thing that I want to ask you here, Marc, just as a follow-up to that, is that after this whole experience with your father having to be out for an extended period of time and you assuming presidency, did just that whole experience help the firm in the future when the firm had to deal with something like this, being prepared for it? Can you speak about that?
Yeah, I'll say two things about that. First of all, it helped the firm in the sense that my dad was nearing retirement age and was one of those people who would have just never stopped working. And it kind of forced him to slow down, which meant that there was a clear face of the company change because he was the connection with dozens, hundreds, whatever of our clients. It was him. But now there was a face of the company change and new blood, new leadership that happened because of that terrible situation. It was something that was in the company's future best interest for him to just be able to slow down and take a different route. Also, I'd say yes, it gave me the opportunity to think about, making sure there's backup plans of signing authority, or that things are documented well on what happens if somebody's out. Anybody could be out for any reason. So just being focused more on being prepared in case there's a staff change or something needs to happen quickly. Yes.
Thank you, Marc. Those are some great points for our listeners, many of them engineers who may have to deal with situations like this in their career where they get thrust into a leadership position almost overnight, just like Marc did. And all these things that you're doing now in terms of building your soft skills, building your business skills, business development, seeking mentors from leaders within your company, having conversations about the direction of the company, all of these things, doing any of these things can help you to really handle these transitions. Marc Sandhu, thanks for spending some time with us here. I hope you enjoyed that short story that Marc Sandhu shared with us. We're going to be publishing a full podcast interview with Marc next week where he really dives into his father's story, the story of his company, and how he's really grown as a professional over the years. And I hope that you'll consider subscribing to our channel to make sure you get that episode, as well as all the other videos that we put out to help engineers become better managers and leaders. I'll see you next week.